Oh, and we're live. I sometimes when I say that, I wish I could see it from the perspective of someone watching it on Facebook. Like, how does it look when we come out? But it's all good.
Yeah.
Like, oh, it's all good. Oh my gosh. We are live, y'all. This is episode 72. Actually, well, if we're counting panels, like then it would be episode like 76, 77. But we are on episode 72, you guys. Oh my God. We are like a little less than 30 away from 100 episodes. That's bonkers. That's crazy.
It's crazy.
I'm just, oh, and it keeps getting better. Like, I just feel like the show keeps getting better. So I'm so excited for this. As you guys come in, say hey, like, let's save my life a minute. Say hey as you guys come in. Let us know where you're coming from. If you're tuning in from Facebook or YouTube. All right. If you catch us on the replay, hashtag replay. As you guys know, please feel free to interact, drop comments, show us lots of love. If you love this show, please and find value, please share this out so I can continue bringing more amazing women to us. And I see people are coming in. So as you guys come in, like I said, say hey. We're going to have a really magical episode tonight. Like, we really are. And, oh, I just can't wait. So I'm going to drop into my intro and we're going to get going. And I was going to tell you one more thing, Joy, before about your background. The reason I like it is because it makes me think of the bookstore in the Harry Potter series, like the bookstore, or not the bookstore, the wand store. It makes me think of the wand store. So I'm like, I love Harry Potter. So that's why I said that. But all right, you guys.
Magic.
Huh?
I said it's all about magic.
It is. I'm excited. The whole energy, it feels magical. So I just can't wait. So, all right, you guys, hello and welcome to the TUF Woman Table. This is the table where I invite some super badass tough women like Joy here to take a seat, join in on the conversation, and share her amazing story. At TUF Woman, I believe that all women have the power within themselves to live life authentically, free from fear, confident in who they are, and empowered as fuck to go out and get exactly what they want in life, no matter what that looks like. I share this belief by championing tough women who have walked through the fire, felt the fear, faced adversity, and kept pushing through it all. Women who now live the life they want as the woman they were created to be, and women who own their stories so other women can own their story, can embrace and own theirs as well. Because as we all know, when you give yourself permission to own and share your story, you give someone else permission as well. Yay! Oh, and Angela says, hey. Angela says, hello. Oh, I'm so excited, Angela. I always say this, but I like to highlight her when she comes on. She's been with me for all episodes now. She's been with
That's
me
so awesome.
since the first episode. So she's my numero uno fan. I love her to death. So, all right, you guys, I have a really awesome and magical guest. I know we keep saying magical, but once she dives into her story and what it is that she does, you guys are going to understand. And she's also been a guest on one of the previous panels, which I was really happy to have you on. So, you guys, I'm going to let her explain what she does and what a cosmic gateway expert is. She is also a leading transformational healer, but I think she's going to explain it a whole lot better to me than me. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce my guest, Joy Rachelle.
Hi, thank you for having me. I'm Joy Rachelle. I'm from Canada. When trying to think of a title for myself, it's just really hard to like put myself in a box. So I'm like, no one has like many things. Lately, I'm putting out there as cosmic gateway expert because I have such a deep connection with galactic star beings, inner earth people, inner earth beings, and angels and like everything. So my history is shamanic healing, doing intuitive readings, psychic business coaching, and right now my focus is bringing in the galactic star beings and inner earth people to work with you to help you in your everyday life and in your business, and to be there. I mean, they can be your very own mentor. And what my focus has been lately is helping activate the sensitive, empathic light worker who knows that they have something to share, who knows that they have a really big message to share with the world, but they just don't know like how they're going to do it, because they're taking in all this energy and they don't know like what the fuck going on sometimes. And they feel like you might feel really introverted, and so you don't know how you're supposed to go from like where you are right now in your house or in your online business or your person-to-person business to like on a global scale to create the impact that you know you're meant to create in the world.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's really important, because a lot of us, especially going through this awakening that we are walking into, or not walking into, but what we're shifting into finally, I think there's a lot of people out there who are dealing with that at the moment. Like, man, this is just like not it. And especially in this period of just having to literally be right now, like we literally have no other choice but to just be and where we're at. I feel like that's coming up for a lot of people right now, and especially being someone who is empathic myself, it can be really intense, that energy that comes with everything. Like it can be super intense.
Yeah, and it totally can. And then it gets super like intensified if you're intuitive, if you're a healer, and because you're basically like a magnet to all the other energies, right? And so you're just trying to separate what is yours and what's other people, but that can be really hard for the majority of the people to do. So
yeah. All right, so I know that you're going to bring a lot of stuff, and I hope to ask you a question about some other stuff later on. Like, I'm going to wait, I don't want to dive into it yet, but I want to know, what is the story behind all that got you to where you're at now? So what does that journey look like? My favorite question: what does that journey look like to get you to where you're at now? Because I know that you talked a lot about having struggles and feeling like, you didn't belong, and dealing with a lot of those traumas and stuff. So yeah, tell us, where did all this begin?
well, I call it my origin story. As I was coming on here today, I'm like, I'm gonna be doing my origin story. Um, it started when I was pretty young. There was some like abuse in my family, and then my family was like shunned, and then my mom's Malaysian, so I'm like half white, half Asian, and so there was also a lot of like racial profiling, like I'm the dark kid in school, so like, don't be friends with her. And so it started like when I was just really young. I was like so shy, so introverted, and just really sensitive to everything. To like someone would like be like, "Hey Joy, I need to talk to you," or something, and I would just like well up in tears because I had that feeling like, oh no, I did something wrong, like I'm gonna get yelled at. I don't know exactly when it started, but basically that had been how I was until probably I was about like 25. So, and so I know wholeheartedly what it's like to be sensitive, to be empathic, and not know that there's like a word for that, right?
Mhm.
And just I grew up just thinking that I was, the crybaby of the family, and that I couldn't take anything like negative, raised voices. And then there was a period when I first got married, in my later 20s, when uh, it like started to like kind of like snowball, like the sensitivity, and I felt myself go from like, like I'd be fine, and then I'd go to these periods where I'd be like, someone I don't know, like I would like be like freaking out and like yelling and like like I just wanted to check out, right? Like, but I was always too chicken to like actually like, because I wanted to end my life. Like, I felt like it was just too much. Like, what was I doing here? My life sucked. and, and then I thought I had bipolar, but I was really scared to like bring that up to a doctor. But I think I was actually pretty fortunate with the whole doctor medical type field, because he was just like, yeah, you might have some depression. Do some physical exercise. I don't want to put you on medication or anything. And so now looking back on that, it was like, that was a blessing, like in its own, right? So I wasn't medicated. I wasn't put on the pills to, help level me out. And yeah, that's pretty much like my whole origin story. And then I felt probably in like my mid-20s, I had like I kept getting like inflammation, because like my knee had gone out and then it just wouldn't go down. Like the inflammation was like so big. And then I was having the symptoms of having arthritis or rheumatoid arthritis. And so then I went probably for a period of like 3 years, like going to the doctor, and they keep doing tests and he'd be like, yeah, your blood work is a little bit elevated on this one marker, but it's not saying that you have that. So he basically was like, you're a medical mystery. Like, I don't know what's wrong with you. And I was like, okay, like this is how I'm supposed to live for like the rest of my life. And it wasn't until like December 2013, me and my husband had moved and I had started work at a native reserve. And this native healer came in, and she came in and was like, I've seen you before. Like, I've met you. And I'm like, no, like, you're crazy. She's like, I've seen you in my dreams. And I'm like, okay.
Like,
Crazy
sure,
medicine
you
woman.
had. Just gonna back up now.
So that was like my first experience with her. And then she came back like a couple weeks later. And that was like my first day on that job at that particular place. And then I had a session with her because my boss was like, you're going to be telling clients and stuff about the medicine woman and what she does. So you should go and have a session with her. So I was like, so I'm like very open-minded. So I'm like, okay, sure, why not? And she basically told me that I needed to learn some sort of energy healing modality, because what was happening within my body was like, my energy was like, it was like, I explain it now as like short circuiting, where it was just like taking on everything and not knowing what it is supposed to do, because I'm such a natural healer and intuitive. And so that was really the beginning of my healing journey. It took me a little bit to, here, I'll just take some water. It took me a little while to actually go out and learn a healing modality, because it was like 6 months later and she was like, Joy, have you done it? And I was like, no. She's like, you should. And so that started my journey with learning Reiki. And then I learned a whole bunch of different modalities, and that kind of started me really on my spiritual journey. And I also had a lot of loss. I had a cat that me and my husband had for 7 years. We had to put him down after he had a dental surgery. And then I had a puppy who I just knew like deep within my soul that he was like my childhood dog, but it sounded crazy to everybody else. I'm like, I just look into his eyes and I see him. And then he passed away like right before like I think I was like turning 31 at that time. So when he passed away, and I was like so devastated. And then in the fall of that same year, this all happened in like the span of like 13 months.
Oh,
and then I had to put down my horse, who I'd had for 15 years. So
Oh my gosh.
That really like skyballed me into the spiritual journey, right? Of knowing that they're still with me and seeking the answers to those questions, right? Of the afterlife, and that even though they're not physically here, they're still here. If that makes sense, yeah.
Yeah. No, and it's funny how that always happens. When they say everything comes in threes, and that what they say? All those things that they come in threes. You're meant to go through these great shifts. It's funny because I feel like that's kind of how this year has been. It's like January started off with something, and then the COVID hit, and it's like and then that was like, actually COVID was like the third thing that hit my life. But yeah, sometimes I think this happens, but I always like to think that with these disruptions, that's exactly what they are. There's those disruptors because we're going along a path where we're not fully embracing where we're supposed to go, right?
Yeah, and it wasn't until because I kind of glimpsed over my dad died of cancer suddenly when I was like 22. It was in 2005. And so then after, of course, losing some pets and stuff and having the medicine woman come in, I went to go to an intuitive reader. And my dad came in, and I had a couple different readings as well. So my dad came in and he was telling me like I'm on this path and he's here to support me and he's proud of me. And I'm like, it doesn't sound like my dad. like, and then it was a few years later, like after I had lost all 3 pets, I had gotten a reading from someone who lives in the town that I moved to. And she just sent me like the most beautiful like message from my dad, my dog, and my horse, that they're always with me. And I like to call myself a klutz. I'm trying not to anymore so I don't manifest that more. I'll be like walking on the stairs or like walking in the house and I'll like feel like I like hit something, right? And I'm always like kind of like half walking into like a wall. And then I remember the reader's face. She was like, she was laughing. And I'm like, what are you laughing at? And she's like, well, your dog is with your dad and it's always running like with you. And so I was like, well, can you tell him not to run in front of me to trip me? And the response of my dog was like, she would run into me anyway.
Oh my gosh.
So it was just so hilarious. But I think it was like, that was a pivotal point in my journey, was when my dad, my dog, and my horse came in, and they really clarified the sensations and things that I had been having. Because I could like feel like the bed move sometimes, and then I have a cat that I replaced my other cat with, and then I like feel on the bed and be like, oh, like Storm, where are you? And then there'd be like no cat, but I would like literally feel the shifting of the bed. And so then after that would happen, and then I would feel my horse like playing with my hair. And it was like from that moment on, I knew that I wasn't alone, that they were still with me, and that part of my path was to help share that message with other people and to let them know that they're not alone. And even though we can lose people and pets and things that mean so much to us, that like there's still life after, for them and for you. You just have to kind of like open up your mind, to being open that that's what is possible, right? So
Mm-hmm. And Jennifer says, "Hey, ladies, hello." Jennifer is a fellow Reiki practitioner, so I'm happy to have her on here. In fact, Jennifer, if you look, she made me a Reiki vision board. I love it so much. Oh man, she said, "What?" Jennifer says, "What did I miss?" Oh boy, definitely watching the replay. So you missed her origin story. You're gonna love this one, Jen. You should stay on. Yeah, I think you guys are gonna like it. All right. So now comes the fun part. We talked about your origin story, and then you're pivoting into it. So what is it that led you going down, like doing everything that you're doing now? So interacting, I want you to touch base on. So you have a background with Lemuria. I can't ever pronounce that right. So my hope is that you just explain that a little bit to everybody, because not everybody is on that same page. So and while I know a little bit about it, this is, I get to hear all this stuff again. So what is it that shifted to you finally like diving really into the spiritual aspect of everything?
It's really hard to explain it. I just explain it as like my soul pull. Though I think I have to kind of go back a little bit. It's like a soul pull, but then what happened with me was I was just really searching for answers. And so I went on this journey of searching outside of myself, by learning different modalities, learning different courses, hoping that that was the one thing that would make me feel like whole, because my whole life I had felt this really deep emptiness inside of myself, like I didn't belong here. Like, why am I here in a human body? And I remember thinking when I was like 6 years old, like, why do I have to go to the bathroom? Why doesn't it just go like into the ether, And so I went through this whole journey of going through and learning, getting certifications and a whole bunch of different things. But it wasn't until I saw, it was like 2016 when I first heard of dragons and Lemuria. And I just remember, like, I had never seen that word before. Like growing up, there'd been like a cartoon and stuff called like Atlantis. So I'd heard of Atlantis before, but I didn't really feel super connected to Atlantis, even though I do have connections there now that I know of. But so then I heard of Lemuria and I just had to know more. So then I went, like searching the internet and trying to find stuff. And then I took another course to figure out what Lemuria meant to me, even though like I didn't really know why I was doing it, right? And it was once I figured out what Lemuria was, and I figured out, like, I remembered my, like, things that I was doing there. Like, I remembered having lives with dragons, and it was just like, I just call it, it's just like, it felt like coming home to me and to like family, to like people that who understood me, and especially when I reconnected with my 3 personal dragons, it was like I remember bawling, like because it was like having this long lost friend that you had from like since you're like 5, but then like you forgot about them because life happened and you moved or whatever, right? And then it's like you reconnect with them again and you have that same strong connection, and you have that remembrance of what it was like to be with them. And so that's what really started it. And then that's what helped me to uncover that what I had been searching for outside of myself for all of those years, I had like I had to actually look within myself
Mm,
for the answers, right? Like I wasn't going to find it by hiring somebody, by taking another course. I had to take the deep dive, and um, I had to do like a whole shit ton of inner work. And that's actually a journey that I take people through in one of my programs that I have, is having to go through all of the inner shifts, um, the inner healing transformation for me to really show up like
mm,
right now for for myself, my business, and my purpose. Because I had felt like for so many years, probably like 2 years, that I was just I would get momentum in my business. I'd be like, yes, I can do this. And then I would post something, and I wouldn't get any likes or anything. Like I was like in this obsessive like phase of needing the likes, needing like that external approval from my peers that I was offering the right things, I was saying the right things. And so when I didn't get any of that feedback, it's like I would retreat and like binge watch Netflix like for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and then I'd show up again. And then, I would go through that reoccurring pattern. And it wasn't until I really started to again address the inner work that I had to do with like learning to actually like myself, love myself, and find the value of what I was worth and what my work was worth, that truly made the transformation like for me and for my business.
mm. Well, and I think, going back to where we're at now, actually, that's something really important. I'm glad you touched on it. And Jen says, no way, synchronicities, just looking up Lemurians a few days ago. Oh, Jen.
Awesome.
And after I touch base on this, I want you to explain to everybody what that civilization is. Um, but I really feel like, again, going back to where the collective's at now, that's something that's really coming up. You have put a bunch of people, you have forced everyone to now be, and now all that stuff is coming up. And that was a big cycle for me. In fact, you're actually mirroring a cycle that I had to really work through, and I still work through actively, because there were periods and points where I'd be like, yeah, I'm going. And of course I'm misaligned, because I'm doing all
Yeah.
the things to like make the money, or oh well, maybe they'll like it if I do this and stuff, instead of doing. And really what it is just that distraction from doing the deep inner work, right? Like we are like, oh yeah, I'll just go keep banging my head against the wall and create content that I don't even know if it's gonna, like, it doesn't really resonate, but I'm gonna make it anyways. And next thing you know, it's like I want to just stop for days, and then it's like then you're entering in that force. And so I feel like that's really a lot of what's going on now too, as far as out and amongst everybody, is we're really being forced to sit with our shit. That's what I like to call it. You have to sit with your shit. You have to acknowledge it. Like, one of the things that just I opened my eyes up to was doing um mirror work. Like, that's a new thing that's come up to me. So literally it's like sitting in front of a mirror and looking at yourself and going, I love you, you're amazing,
Yeah.
you're awesome. And it really makes you think when you see things like that, because I ask my clients, I'm like, how often do you look at yourself and tell yourself what you tell other people, like your friends and stuff? How often do you sit there and go, man, you're fucking awesome, and you're just staring at yourself, right? It's like, how often do
Yeah.
we do that?
Yeah. And it's like you have to become your own cheerleader,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because when you're down in the dumps, the only person who is going to dig you out of it is yourself.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I even like that you talked about like taking all these courses, because I really think that's important, and we don't talk about that enough. Is, there you can do all the courses, but at the end of the day, what you need, what is your zone of genius? And I'm saying this for all the people who are in the online space right now, especially coaches and stuff. what you need is not available to you through a course or a coach. Like, yeah, that's going to give you a tool. And I'm not saying
Mhm.
that to negate coaching or the
Yeah.
industry, because what I like to say is a coach is a tool as well. I
Yeah.
For people I worked with, I'm like, when they asked me, they're like, "What am I supposed to do?" I said, "Oh, well, this is the point where you have to utilize, like, you have to dig deep." And I said, "Consider me like the spade for your garden, or the little shovel. We're the shovels." But it's funny you touch this. Everything that we need, we already have. I think what it comes down to, like you said, is learning to trust that, really learning to step in and trust that this is the right way, that we are the expert, right? We spend so much time looking at the experts and we forget, like, where are the expert of this particular subject, whatever it is, like whatever we're coaching on.
And it's like you have to think back too to like their origin story. Like a lot of people, well, I found that a lot of people, when you go and research them, they're hard to find, like how they got started, like their backstory and stuff. Because some people are really open and transparent about sharing it, and other people just aren't. It's like they showed up out of nowhere and they're just there, right? And so there's really no context to like where their journey began. But it's learning that someone had to start where you're at. Like someone's been you, right? And for me too, it was about becoming the person, the healer, the teacher, the activator that I was looking for when I started my journey, that I could not find, that I had to go take all, like a whole bunch of different things for, that I couldn't find has like a one all type of a thing that would take me from doing the inner work healing journey to figuring out like what my intuitive psychic gifts are, to how I receive my information, so that you can learn how to trust your information that's coming in, and then journeying into the aspect of unlocking your own magic gifts and abilities, and trusting the information that comes in, right? Like I'm a cosmic gateway expert. So I get information from my higher self, my star soul family, my inner earth people, who help mentor me along the way, with what I should do and offer, and help me to really learn to trust myself, and the information that I'm getting is correct, and that like it's not what like Jane Doe is saying, like if I
Mhm.
were to hire her, like her blueprint isn't necessarily going to work for me, because my energy and my message is completely different than from like, like these are the steps, follow them A to Z, and you will get here, right? I found that that doesn't work. And a lot of the people that I know that are in the spiritual entrepreneur industry, that those don't work for them, because we have to really learn how to listen to our inner guidance system and trust what we're getting, and follow that, instead of following like this other guru person that we think is so much more successful than we are, and like follow them blindly until like you're broke type of a
Mhm.
thing.
Well, and what you touched on, I really liked. You said that we had to, recognize our own inner authority. And I think a lot of it, and myself included in this, I used to always say, well, I want to be like Oprah. And the fact of the matter is, like, Oprah's fantastic. But the more you walk along this journey, you realize that you are meant to be your own source of magic. Like, and now when I paraphrase, it's like, no, man, like, you're not Tony Robbins and you're not Oprah, you're Ashley Ingram, and that's what you're going to be known as. And I love that you touched that, because I feel like that's the message I keep getting called to share, is like, you already are the expert. Like, you are the next you. You, like, don't worry about, what Oprah or Tony Robbins or any of them doing, because you are meant to do something new in this world that they're not doing, that only you can talk about. And I feel a lot of times that's where a lot of people struggle, especially in the spiritual entrepreneur world. We struggle walking into that authority, and it's like, well, especially the one thing I have noticed with the shift that's coming is we're really starting to do business totally different now. If this has not shown people that business is about to change and how we do business is about to change, then I don't know what is. But the way we're doing business is different. Like the women's group that Jen and me and a friend of ours, Karen, we all run together. We were going over contractual stuff, and I'm like, well, shit. I said, do we want to do business the traditional way? It's like, God, I even say that. I'm just like, I think of old white stuffy men in a boardroom. It's like, do we want that? Like,
Yeah.
like, do we want that? Yeah, so I think that's really important. And I think that the way you weave that is and talk about it is very important to bring up in the collective because I know for myself that that's something that I've struggled with, but I see that as a struggle, and I want to shake people sometimes like, dude, you already got it. You got it. Don't worry.
Yeah. What's coming up too is to share like what have been your continual like life lesson patterns that if when you look back on your life that you find are like things that like you kept coming across until like you basically like passed the test, right? Like for me, like I before never thought of myself as being a leader, and so I never thought about that, but I could imagine myself like speaking on stage and like being a book writer and like, being a speaker. And I was kind of like that's the vision like I would keep seeing, but I was be like, I don't, let's shut that down because like I can't do that. I'm like so shy and sensitive and I'm an introvert. Like, no, I can't do that. But so then looking back at my life story, I can see like patterns of when I was asked to step up and be a leader. Like a lot of people don't know this. I used to be a licensed practical nurse and I was working in a rural community. And so then there was a nursing student who was working there for the summer. And so like I would like teach her like how to do like the IV thing, like simple things like that like nobody else was taking the time to do. And then when I was working as a lab assistant in the hospital, I was actually really surprised when my boss was like, hey, you're going to train blah, blah today. She's going to go around with you. I was like, okay, cool. Like, I'm in charge of somebody and I have to teach them stuff.
Oh my God.
And then I became like the person in my workplace, like in all the workplaces that I've ever been, like people always come to me and ask me like, Joy, how do I do this? Like, what do I do here? And so I kept finding myself in those patterns, but I also found myself as being the advocate for people speaking up for themselves, which sounded really funny to me because I had, for the longest time, like my whole fucking life, could never speak up for myself, right? And then I was like, encouraging other people to do the same thing.
So, no, girl, you better go. You better go over there.
Yeah. And now I like just talking about this now, I'm like, I'm realizing that that's actually like what I'm doing right now, right? Is I'm like encouraging everyone to, speak out about what their soul purpose is, to find what that is and to share their story. It doesn't matter like if you're shy or introverted, like we have to you have to get into that energy like mind space that your mission of why you're here on the planet right now is so much bigger than like your humanness that goes, like I can't do that. Like I can't talk about that on a live stream.
What?
I remember when I first would start to do live streams and I would like swear and I'd be like, oh no, I said, you know, like, but I'm like, but I
Man.
was
Yeah.
filtering myself, right? Because that's who I am. I say fuck and like and all the time. And I had to just accept that that's how I would like speak to people, right? Like I had to stop criticizing myself for, because every time I do a video or whatever, like I always like rewatch it, right? Because I'm a kind of like a perfectionist. I like to like critique myself. And I'd always be like, oh, I said like too many times. I said oh, I said fuck like 100 times. I just had to like get over that, right? And now I'm just like, whatever. I'm just saying what comes out.
It's okay. When I get really passionate, people go, listen, I did not mean to get you riled up. I'm like, no, I'm just really passionate about it, and that's how I speak. Jen's like, I want to know where I am from. My friend just did this, and she is an Arcturian. So maybe this is a moment where we take a step back from the story, and you explain to people what Lemuria is. Oh my God. Because everybody knows
So
what
Lemuria is known as an ancient civilization that existed like 10,000, 30,000 years ago. They were a very advanced civilization where they had dragons and crystals, and they, you know, had like the amazing psychic gifts and telepathy and everything. And then it fell, and now we're here. That is, I could go into more detail, but that's like the simplest way for uh, a lot of people who are just like waking up and are, even if they've kind of been on the journey for a little bit, the easiest way for them to understand it. So
No, and you know what? That's what we need, is to simplify these things for people who are just waking up. I had this conversation earlier about how there's a lot of information being thrown at the collective right now that is very, very high level. And there's a lot of us that do get that, yes. But when you're talking about the conscious collective as a whole, most of them don't understand what 5D and 6D is, or how that even works in their fucking life, and they're sitting there going, oh my God, this sounds like I'm in a fucking nightmare. What the hell is going on? And I keep like wanting to check in with the, you know, with the people, especially the leaders and the coaches and stuff. It's like, dude, y'all, we have to bring this to a space where they're even at a vibration to even take this in. Like they're not in a defensive, fearful vibration. But then it's like, how does this work for them? Maybe they don't need this right now. You know, we want to like get them waking up, but we don't want them waking up and then scurrying into hole because they think they're in the apocalypse. Um,
yeah,
but,
yeah, there's like that level of discernment. Like I know I found myself there too, where I'm like, okay, like I feel like I'm here to help more advanced spiritual people, like help them level up way more. But then I also know that I I do have the ability to, I like to categorize them as, just for like simple thinking. It's like, you know, to show the kindergarteners and the preschool people like, hey, this is this. This is okay. You know, here's a little bit of information. And then, you know, and then but then I'm like, I'm finding it like I'm still kind of like figuring out like how to weave that in, and like if I'm supposed to teach the kindergarteners or if I'm supposed to teach like the grade 12 people, college people, you know, so
yeah.
that they can go and be a professor, you know. So
And Angela says, seriously, I am just learning about HD and now this. Oh, Angela, it just gets better, man. So I have to ask, do you know what an Arcturian is then? Because I don't know what that is. Like, I'm going to tell you.
an Arcturian is a star family, is a galactic star being from the Arcturus star constellation.
All right. So, all right. So here's my
It's
first.
out there.
It's out there. So I have to ask this. So because this is what came across like my realm, things that I dabble into. Um, so what is a star seed? Is that the same thing when you talk about a star being, or is a star seed different than that?
So I'm glad that you brought this up because I had like a massive kind of like data drop come in a couple of days ago. So a lot of people identify as star seeds because they identify with being, Arcturian or Palladian or Sirius or Lyrian, you know, from those star systems. And so they're like, I'm a star seed. I'm a star seed. But in reality, we are all star seeds. It's just some of us feel a more of like a connectedness to calling ourselves the star seeds, right? But that we're here to help change the planet, which yes, we are. Some of us have more advanced like sole purpose missions. But the reality is that we're all star seeds. And I actually saw a post the other day about someone had said like, oh, like I'm a Palladian and we are like the most, it was a Palladian or an Arcturian, I forget, but there was like, we're the most advanced star, star being in the galaxy and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, but no, like we're that's causing separation again, which is what we're experiencing here on earth, right? So that's like our human ego being like, hey, I identify with this star system or this star family, and having that kind of like superiorness energy to it, because that's what our ego likes to do, right? Is be like, I'm better than you, when in reality it's like we're all playing the same game. We're all here for the betterment of the planet, for the betterment of the collective, to raise consciousness so that we can ascend. And so we're all kind of like on the same level. Like nobody is better than anybody else. Like I hope that made sense.
Yeah, no, we're all doing this. We're all doing this at our own rate, but for the same cause.
Yeah,
We're all in this for the
yeah,
same thing.
yeah.
And I like that you say that because I think people have lost sight of that. Like we really are all in this together. I mean, we're all going literally globally on, if people step back, we're globally all going through the same situation at the same time.
Just some of us are at
Levels. Yeah.
different levels in your like life experience and your spiritual experience,
Hmm.
which doesn't make, like, because I connect with galactic star beings, and let's say you don't, that doesn't make me like here and like you there, like we're all on the same journey, we're just at different stages.
I'm gonna be honest. I'm glad you do and I don't, because I don't think I could have all that stuff coming into my head. I would be in a ball in my room, going, "You guys, just leave me alone, please. Just let me have a regular day. Just leave me alone." Like I already have enough
um,
in my head, and
you
I
you
think
can create boundaries with them, and you have the capacity to have that connection with them. But what you just said there are, is you creating the blocks and stuff to it too.
I
So
know, I
yeah.
know. I know because when I started, and this is gonna be a funny story, you guys. When I started my spiritual journey, um, I I had done some inner child work. I had unblocked my chakras. I was like, oh, this is cool. I'm moving through stuff and I don't feel bad. I feel good. Like I had heard about people having big spiritual awakenings and feeling like they got hit by a Mack truck. And I'm like, oh no, I'm feeling good. I'm feeling good. So I uttered the words, what, universe, let's just do it. Let's give it all to me right now. I want to work through it all at one time. And don't do that, you guys. Set the boundaries. Because I did wake up like all I remember is waking up like 2 weeks later feeling like I had been hit by a Mack truck and not knowing where 2 weeks of my life had gone. And I said, what the freaking hell is going on? And I remember going to to a store and I was talking to this intuitive woman, and she said don't do that. And I said, what do you mean? She said, don't ask for it all at once. Look, Jen says don't do that. She said, you don't ask for it all at one time. She said, because the universe will give you what you ask for. She said, don't ask for it all at one time. So yeah, no, I'm glad you said that. Because now I'm gonna have to go reframe the way I look at some stuff. But Jen says I was doing inner work about a year ago in journal meditation. I wrote a piece and called myself Star Storm Goddess. Hey. So.
Maybe that's what you're supposed to call yourself in your Reiki or your healing business, but maybe you're supposed to evolve from Reiki and channel down your own healing.
Yeah.
As Star Storm Goddess.
Right? Oh my gosh. So I'm glad see this. I always say I learned something from everybody that comes on there. So now when we get off here, I'm gonna meditate on that thought. I'm gonna meditate on that thought about releasing my own blocks. And just a quote, but just a like highlight on that for anybody watching that. Always remember you are your only block. That was like a really hard pill to swallow in the spiritual journey. You are really your only block. Like that's it. There's no external blocks. There's karmic debt and stuff, but that's a really different conversation. Um um and I'm sure Angela's gonna go, I don't believe in karma. But yeah, at the end of the day, we are our own block. When we talk about watching the things you say and do, I mean, I had this one girl that I work with, and she said, I used to date this guy and I wanted to open this restaurant and I knew exactly what it was going to like. She had the whole vision and he's like, well, why don't you do it? She said, oh, no, I can't. And of course it never came into fruition. I'm like, you saw the whole way it could be created. What do you mean? You already knew how to do it. But of course she said, I can't get the funding. I can't get the capital. Okay, well, no, of course you can't because you just said you can't. So everybody, if you take anything on that part, you are your only block. You are the only thing that stands in your way. Angel says, that's we've had many conversations about past lives and karma, and it's okay, Angela. You're crossing over the bridge. That's all I gotta say. You're crossing over the bridge and you haven't died. So that's it. But anyways, all right. So we're catching on to the last bit of this. So this is the last question I ask, and it's if for anybody coming up in their journey, if you're coming back and you are acting as that woman they were looking for, i.e. the woman you used to be or you used to look for, what would be 3 pieces of advice you would give them to help them on their journey?
Don't give up. That you matter. That, those times when you feel like checking out and in your deep depths of like depression and you like don't want to do anything, like you feel like life just isn't like, even though your external world seems like good for everybody else, like your internal world is like you're like feel like you're like dying inside and you're just like kind of like waiting for that to happen. It's at those times, call on your spirit guide and the angels, archangels to come and help guide you, and then be open and willing to listen to them and the information that comes through, and know that you are here for a reason. Every single one of you has a purpose here on earth, and you matter to somebody. You matter to people you don't even know. Even if you don't know, even if, let's say, like how I talked about before with my journey with, like I'd post something and I would feel like nobody read it. Like, no, share anyway. Share your message, share your journey and share your thoughts anyway. There are people who will come back, who will read that thing that you posted 5 years ago and then finally have the courage to email you or Facebook message you, Facebook friend you, whatever the fuck, and tell you that that is what changed their life, that you changed their life, that you made their life worth living, that you made them feel like you weren't, like they weren't alone in this journey. And I don't know how many things I went through in that one, but my last point would be to learn to trust yourself. I know that can be really hard, that can be really scary, um, but learn to trust yourself. And if you need help with learning how to trust yourself, um, connect with a psychic or an intuitive coach who can really help you figure out how it is that you're receiving your information, and so you can take away that self-doubt that we constantly have. But like you get something that comes in, you know, like you're driving and you listen to the little voice that says, don't turn right, go keep, you know, turn left. And then you get home and then you find out there was an accident on the other way, right? Like we find ourselves listening to that voice in those instances, but in other instances where it's like, you know, you're just like talking to somebody, or it's about something that you think that you need to do in your business or your life, we find that, like I find that, you know, we tend to ignore those messages, but it's learning to just listen to yourself, to take the time and listen to yourself and not try to always have yourself be busy. You know, like we find ourselves being like, oh no, I have to listen to music. Like I can't deal with a silent house or something, right? And, you know, like this is the most opportune time on the planet right now to really learn how to listen to yourself, because you don't, the majority of the people, well, I think it's the majority of the people who didn't already work at home already, you have those opportunities now to do that, to find how do you listen to your inner voice, and you know, to nourish yourself and your like inner child and all those other aspects of yourself that you've been ignoring because it's been too scary for you. It's been scary for you to get to know who the fuck you are, but now is your most optimal time. And yeah, get to know yourself, get to know what you like and not what you think that you like, because growing up, you've attached yourself to other people's ideas and other people's likes and wants for you to be liked. Yeah, just really learn how to love yourself and like yourself. I think that was more than 3 things, but
you know what? But they are timely and they're needed, especially right now, you guys. Yeah, I love that you talked about not being busy. I think that's super important. That's something that's come up for me a lot. It's just taking time to not be busy, taking time to go eat a meal with no technology, no TVs on, like just being in your meal and eating your meal, which actually helps with digestion, everybody. So don't bring your phone and don't watch TV while you eat. All right. Take time to be outside. And oh, thank you. She said that you held space and saw me when the rest of the world didn't. That's one thing I want to say, you guys. If you're feeling kind of lost, um, go acknowledge somebody else. I know that sounds like a weird thing to do, and I think you should acknowledge yourself, but go just do or be something nice for somebody else. Like be somebody for somebody else. And you touched a little bit on that, but when you are struggling, go out and do something for somebody else or be somebody for somebody else, because it is through that and helping them through that that you're going to potentially have that, you know, breakthrough in your own struggle. So and she said you were going to die on the bridge. So I'm gonna iterate this before we get off here. Angela had a phobia of going over this bridge, and I'm saying this out of love, Angela. And she said it magically manifested 4 years ago, and she could not understand, but she was deathly afraid of going over the bridge because she swore she was going to die. And that's when our talk about karmic past lives and everything came into the discussion that we touch base on every once in a while that she doesn't want to talk about. But so she's successfully driven over the bridge many times and has not died. How about that, right? And then Jen says yes, the quiet. They are usually breakthrough moments, and she says she's going to send you a friend request. Jen is
Do it.
one third. Jen is one third of Trinity Women's Coaching, so she runs, like I said, me, her, and Karen. So I'm so excited to work with her, and she's one of my favorite spiritual people in the world. Next to you now, Joy, you're one of my favorite spiritual people now. I'm like, oh my god. All right, so just now, this is the part of the show where you can tell everybody where they can find you, how they can connect with you further, and yeah, and then we're gonna wrap this up.
All right. You can find me at joyrachelle.com. I have the majority of my services and offerings on there. It has my contact information, my Instagram, my Facebook, everything. Feel free to friend request me. I'm joy.rachelle.58. Has a personal profile. And yeah, I would love to connect with you. And yeah, I have a variety of offerings from, like learning how to channel your multidimensional self. And then I have my work with the inner earth people and strengthening your bond and your spiritual connection with being able to get more information. And I also have a mystery school, which is called Soul Activation Mystery School, which I talked briefly about at the beginning, middle, or whenever it happened in our conversation. That is the journey that I take you on, and it's the thing that I wish that I had when I was like 2-3 years ago. And yeah, just connect with me. And thank you all for watching and hearing my story and hearing me talk on and on and on. Sometimes it seems about stuff. So
No,
I could go forever.
and that's my, like I said, you can talk as much as you want. That's what this is. This is a space for you to come and just, because one thing I've noticed is we as women, and myself included, we don't talk about ourselves. Like we are conditioned to not do that. Because then you sound boastful and whatever other bullshit they tell you. So my hope is to get women into the habit of talking about themselves in a way that's uplifting and in a way that they can frame their struggles as, empowering and overcoming, because that's what you did. You overcame some serious shit, right? And we all overcame some serious shit at some point in our life. So for me, it's just being able to provide the space for all of you ladies to come on here and talk about yourself. Like, yeah, just go ahead, just talk about yourself, because it's cool. It's a fun thing to watch. It's a fun thing to watch the myriad of emotions that come across, and then like to watch people go into joy and bliss. And so that's a neat exercise for me. You want to talk about like being in a meditative state. I don't tell people this much, but for me, it's very much an energetic transfer. And I'm not like I'm siphoning your energy, but when I'm fully meditative, you guys, like when I'm in my full like present state, I feel like, have you ever seen the pendulums, the pointed end where it sits on a circular diagram and it just rotates around like this? That's what I literally do. Like I sit there and I just do this little spin. And that's how I know that I'm centered and locked in. So, you guys, before we get off here, I want to add to Joy's wonderful points. Find something that brings you center. Like literally find something that brings you center, meditation, breath work, whatever it is. Find something that allows you, like you said, to be quiet and find that center, because everything you need is in that center. Everything you need. All right. So we are done now. All right. We are going to see you guys next Tuesday for a completely packed out panel. And just, you guys, I want to get you guys geared up for May. Oh, Joy, if you want to come on, you can. I've got a couple more spots on the last few panels. But May 12th, 19th, and 26th, you guys, we are going to be talking about the masculine and the feminine, the divine masculine, divine feminine, and how you can balance it within yourselves, as well as why it's so important. So we're going to actually do a 3-part series on that, because that is really like a deep dive subject. And 1 hour is not enough. to really encompass why that's important. So my goal is to not only touch base on what those energies are, how do they work within each of us? Because yes, men, you have a divine feminine aspect, and yes, women, you have a divine masculine, and those both work together, the yin and the yang. So right now, it's very, very important that we begin acknowledging those energies and learning how to balance them and work them together, so that we can continue moving forward as both individually and collectively. So, you guys look for that series coming up. And thank you so much, Joy, for being on here. I am so grateful to you and your
Well,
vast,
thank you.
vast knowledge. Like, I'm like, oh my God, I'm learning so much stuff. So, all right, you guys, please reach out to Joy. She is fantastic. She is a joy. Literally, you're like a joy.
I am.
But all right, you guys. So we will see you next Tuesday, 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for our TUF Woman Roundtable. This is going to be an all-female panel this time. So tune in. I don't know what we're going to talk about yet, but I will know by Tuesday. So, all right, you guys. We will see you guys. If you catch us on the replay, hashtag replay. And I'll see you guys Tuesday.
Bye.
Bye. Oh.